Gonzaga Nation Media Network previewing the game with Santa Clara traveling to Spokane to play the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Recurring guest, a guest that I've enjoyed talking to a little bit throughout the course of this season, assistant coach for the Broncos, Scott Garson. Coach, appreciate you joining. How's the trip up to Spokane?
Oh, it was good, smooth, no issues, so that's good. So got in safe. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Absolutely. Well, it's the rematch game from about a month ago, and you guys gave Gonzaga everything they could handle. You led for nearly the entire way until a big 3-point dagger from Nolan Hickman. But you guys had a double-digit lead early in that first half. You played really well in the second. What type of lessons do you as a staff pull from that to share with the guys and say, this is our scouting report, we stick to this, we're going to come out with a win?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the consolation prizes in this business aren't much. I mean, it's always great to say, hey, you played a team tough and all that, but at the end of the day, you got to find a way to win. I mean, obviously, Gonzaga has done a tremendous job of doing that throughout the conference season already. I mean, the Bulldogs have had a number of tough, close games on the road, and they've found a way to find a win. And so, that's the bottom line. I mean, for us, I think there were a lot of lessons on, finishing. Certainly finishing both halves were an issue for us. I mean, in the first half, like you mentioned, we got out to a 14-point lead, but by halftime, it was neck and neck. And, obviously credit to Gonzaga. They've got since our game, they've got two different guys that can basically go for 40 on a night. Timmy had, 38, I think, up at Pacific, and obviously Julian Strother's coming off a 40-point game, and there's a lot of firepower on that team. And so for us, I mean, you cannot, when you're playing a team like Gonzaga, you cannot have those moments during the game where you let up and take your foot off the gas pedal, because the second you do that, boom, they hit you. And they've got a lot of firepower. They got, obviously, in our game, Nolan Hickman had a tremendous game. We were able to do a decent job, I think, on Strother on the perimeter and on Bolton, and then here comes Nolan Hickman. So, I mean, it's not just one guy on their team that you have to worry about. And so, you have to be locked in every single possession on both ends of the floor. You can't give possessions away, because when you do that, a team like Gonzaga is going to beat you.
Talk about the struggles for Santa Clara in the past week. One was against a super good St. Mary's team that I think is still underrated nationally. People on the West Coast, coaches like yourself, know how good they are. But Pacific has been playing some really good basketball. They gave Gonzaga a good game a couple weeks ago. They knocked down 17 threes against you guys. Tell us a little bit about the progression of your team and what the last couple weeks have been like since that you played Gonzaga.
Yeah, well, with regards to St. Mary's, you hit it right on the head. I mean, this is as good as St. Mary's has been, and they've been a tournament team a number of times. But this is the best St. Mary's team that I've seen since I've been in the conference in my 5 years. I mean, they are really, not only are they good, but they're playing at a high level. And it just seems like when you play them, nobody's open. Their defense is at another level right now. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. It's like hard to find an open shot. So obviously we went up to their place. It was a rowdy environment. They had a full house, and we didn't play well, frankly, but I thought we played hard and competed and all that. The Pacific game was a totally different type of game. It was a high scoring affair. Pacific's a team, as Gonzaga saw a couple of weeks ago, that can really put points on the board. They mismatch you big time. They play a 4 and a 5 man that are basically 3 men, very non-traditional. I mean, I think Gonzaga, St. Mary's, ourselves, and a couple other teams in the conference, play with more traditional bigs and size and everything like that. And usually that's an advantage for us. Usually that's an advantage for a team like Gonzaga, like St. Mary's. It wasn't an advantage against Pacific because we didn't do a good job of taking away the three. And when those guys got comfortable in the first half, my goodness, they, the basket, as you know, I mean, it looked like it was an ocean out there, and they were throwing a pea into it in the second half. They couldn't miss, and they hit some tough ones down the stretch. And give them credit, they made plays, but we had to do a better job defensively than we did in that game. We were not happy with our defensive effort in that game as a whole, and so that's certainly something that as a staff we've tried to address throughout the week.
You have a trio of guys in Brandon Pajemski, Carlos Stewart, and Keyshawn Justice that could go for 20 points or more on any given night. But Pajemski, I saw the numbers earlier in the season, but then I saw him in person. I was impressed because he's not a crazy athlete, but he plays at his own pace. He seems to have a high level of skill. He's very smart. He's a cerebral player, and you combine the skill, the cerebralness, playing at your own pace, you've got a dangerous player. Were you guys expecting this from him, or did it just kind of build in the fall into knowing what you were going to have with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think it built. I mean, there's certain parts that we expected, and we knew he could really, really shoot the ball. We thought he was going to be a very good scorer. I think what we are, and nobody thought he was going to be averaging, almost 20 and 9 a game at this point in the season, his first year with us. But that's obviously exceeded expectations. But we certainly knew, especially coming out of the summer, like this guy could really score the ball, really score the ball. Where we've been impressed with him, he is. I mean, I've been around a lot of really good players over my fortunate time in 25 years, and he's about as driven as anybody to be a great player as I've been around. This guy studies the game. He watches basketball all the time. He is always trying to get better. And so, like, you talk about the game slowing down for him and everything. I mean, that wasn't necessarily the case even early in the year when he was playing well. I mean, he's really is trying to get better at every aspect of the game. He's an elite competitor. I think I mentioned to you the last time we're on. I mean, when there's a loose ball, he's the first to the floor. I mean, it's every time. And when your leading scorer is doing that, that's a really good thing for your team. But like he has really gotten better in pick and roll. He's really gotten better at reading situations, understanding where to be spaced offensively when he doesn't have the ball. He's getting better and better at moving without the ball. And, and it's just because he cares about all those things. I mean, he really does. He wants to be a great player in all aspects of the game. I mean, honestly, he probably watches more film than any of the coaches. This guy is always watching basketball. And I mean that sincerely, always studying the game. And, Dan, I know, you've been around guys like that. I mean, it's special to be around a guy like that. It's fun to coach a guy like that, because, he's just constantly looking for more information and trying to find out how to get better. And he pushes you as a coach to make sure that you're prepared every day.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time. Always good to catch up. Best of luck tonight, as well as the rest of the season. And if the first part of the WCC is any indication, the second half is going to be ridiculous with games and outcomes and performances.
Yeah, it's got to be. The league's got to be about as good as it's ever been. It's something else. So thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate you having me on and excited for the rest of the WCC play.